X-Men threats are out there. Threats like the Sentinels and Onslaught are often remarked on and feared, but X-Men foes who appear less frequently can still be just as deadly. Bastion is now more iconic than ever when it comes to being one of the big players in the X-Men rogues and threats gallery. Many people think of Sentinels when they think of big X-Men cybernetic threats, but Bastion is unique in that he is basically a living Sentinel. In the comics, he is mostly just a machine, of course, but one who was raised by humans, giving him human-like traits. But in the X-Men 97 series, he is a literal combination of the two, making him even cooler in my mind. In this series, the Siege Perilous is not involved in his origin story, but instead it was a piece of Nimrod who influenced his creation, instead of him literally kind of being a version of Nimrod, making him part Sentinel and part human here, a literal living machine. Bastion claims to be combining tech and humans together, creating Prime Sentinels, in order to save humanity with his project Operation Zero Tolerance here. But I wonder if, like many other Sentinels out there, he actually might be serving more of the robot's interests than humanity in the long run. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe we won't. Depends on when this video releases. There might be more information after the time of this recording. What are some crazy X-Men threats that you would love to see in X-Men 97? Let me know in the comments. Most people don't think of the Terrigen Mists as being a danger to mutant kind. Most people probably don't think much of the Terrigen Mists at all. But they're there, and you can bet that they are harming mutants if they are around them. As we learned in Humans vs. X-Men when the Terrigen Mists were revealed to be toxic to mutants. Mutants who were exposed to the clouds on Earth ran the risk of straight up dying as a result of exposure. In fact, some actually did. Cyclops, for example, the leader of the X-Men. So what most people might just see as clouds that give the Inhumans their powers, or allow them to access their powers rather, triggering them, to the X-Men team, these are basically clouds of death. Man, I love this next X-Men threat. This is the group known as Horticulture. If you know me, if you've been here before, you know I love Horticulture, and if you're new, welcome in. I love Horticulture. Horticulture is an amazing group made up of a bunch of botanists who each have their own specialty in the field. They also so happen to be a group of geriatric women as well. Their goal is to protect plant life on Earth. It doesn't sound so villainous until you realize how much both humanity and mutant kind stand to threaten Mother Nature simply with their existence, pretty much. Sabretooth is one of those villains who I feel is often undermined and underappreciated. Some people don't think much of Victor, thinking of him as no more than a violent and unhinged enemy for Wolverine. But fun fact, he didn't even first appear as a Wolverine villain. No, he actually first appeared in Iron Fist issue number 14 back in the 1970s. Yeah, he was actually kinda like Iron Fist's foe first, if you can believe that. Over the years though, as we've come to learn more about Victor Creed, we learn he too was a mutant and one with a vendetta against Wolverine, who had killed his brother. Sabretooth wasn't actually upset about the loss of someone that, you know, he loved so much, like his brother, his family member, as he was upset about the loss of someone he ritualistically tormented every year on his brother's birthday. Which is why he took to ruining Wolverine's birthday once he'd found out that Logan was, of course, responsible. Victor might seem like he's all brawn, no brain, but he's actually a master strategist and tactician who is surprisingly good at playing mind games with his enemies, manipulating them into believing what he wants them to believe and often tricking them into committing terrible acts seemingly on their own. Coming up next, good old Donnie Pierce. Gosh, I love Donnie Pierce. I personally feel like Donald Pierce being a villain of a sort of bygone era is a character and a villain who just does not get enough love, so that's why I decided to include him here on this list. He has accomplished some pretty impressive things, and way before we ever had Bastion, Donald Pierce was it when it came to cybernetic style X-Men villains. Or at least, you know, he was one of the big ones. He's accomplished some pretty cool stuff in his time and almost took out Wolverine with his creations Albert and LCD, who would go on to change their programming so they could instead live independently from Pierce's control. Honestly, fair enough. Still, he came close with that plan, and he's done a lot of other pretty terrible things before, to be real with you. I mean, I love that Bastion is getting this like amazing like comeback time, but I do wonder, like, what about Donald Pierce? Will we ever see Donald Pierce again? That would be great. The Shadow King is a threat that not many people focus on anymore when it comes to the X-Men. His time for the most part seems to have passed, although he does still appear here and there, but when it comes to his accomplishments and how iconic he's been throughout the years, I think it's important that we all remember his existence. He exists and he's cool. And have I been feeling like he's about to pop up everywhere lately? I have, and is that probably wrong? Probably, but it's just because I kinda love the Shadow King, guys. I'm going through a Shadow King phase right now. Shadow King did, after all, almost completely take out the X-Men at one point, and he has manipulated many of them throughout his life, as well as many of their allies. In certain alternate realities, he actually has also been successful in defeating the X-Men, so there you go. Cassandra Nova might seem like a weirdo, and trust me, she most definitely is a weirdo. If you were thinking that, you are correct. But at the same time, just because her origin is super weird doesn't mean she should be discounted as a villain. In fact, she might be responsible for one of the sole most terrifying panels that exists in Marvel Comics. This one from the E is for Extinction story arc. Cassandra Nova is often known for hating mutants and being completely devoid of empathy. Recently this changed, but her gaining empathy honestly didn't make her any less terrifying. It just allowed her to temporarily ally herself with the mutants. When it comes to Emma Frost, I think she is a villain most people don't expect to be super deadly because, well, she's now reformed and an X-Men team member. But that being said, with Emma there are two sides to her, almost. There is the time from before when she was with the Hellfire Club and she was an X-Men villain, and there's the time from after, when she ended up finding some redemption and even joining up with the X-Men team and becoming a hero. Yeah, Emma in the before times was ruthless and definitely was a villain that you wouldn't want to mess with. I think a lot of folks now kind of discount her as a villain because, you know, she's been a hero for so long now, but I definitely think it would be interesting to see Emma return to her villain roots and to also see how her time as a hero may have changed her approach to villainy. Back in the day, there was almost nothing too dastardly in regards to what she was willing to do. Remember when she swapped bodies with Storm? That was just downright diabolical. Orcus is another group that seems like a pretty big threat when it comes to mutant kind, even bigger than horticulture. Most people might not take them as seriously because they are newer on the scene, but Orcus is pretty impressive when you consider that they're made up of parts of all of the groups who basically felt threatened by mutant kind's growth and evolution in the Dawn of X era. This included many of their enemies who did not disappear, but instead banded together in resistance to the mutants rising up, becoming honestly even more powerful, as well as former mutant allies who had actually begun to grow concerned over how much power and influence the mutants were gaining from banding together. You know it's not good when the allies are joining up with that team, you know what I mean? That's like a lot of power. It's not just enemies, it's allies that have become enemies. Nimrod might sound like a goofy threat and villain for the X-Men in terms of his name, but the choice of name here actually does come from a different meaning for the word than you're likely thinking of. A lot of people think Nimrod and they think dum-dum. Nimrod though can also mean a particularly skilled hunter, which is just exactly what Nimrod is here. Nimrod is an exceptional sentinel who can adapt and improve as they hunt down mutants, learning and changing as they go based on the mutants and experiences that they encounter during their mission. Nimrod has also proven to be exceptionally terrifying, I would say, in recent years, revealing that they are not simply working for humanity, but instead are actually working for AI life, fighting to eradicate not just mutants, but all living beings. So humanity, also watch out. Even worse for humanity, because humanity, we do have some superpowered people in Marvel, but humans are just squishy. They're squishy people. That's about it. I'm your host, Amanda McKnight. Until next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube.